let me give you three things where I think most Airbnb hosts and business owners also in general are going wrong when they're trying to build up a business. And this is very, very important to me. And these are lessons you cannot just only use in terms of the Airbnb business model, but I want to go in with specific examples for this one because now we have this community where we only support Airbnb hosts to invest here on the African continent, and this all together as a community. So therefore, I want to give you three lessons how you can really, and mostly in terms of the mindset you have when doing this, like scale your business better, be more profitable, and get the most out of it. And so I would say, let me just get right into it. And the first thing I would say is really focus. And first off, let me tell you how I learned this lesson. And the way I learned this lesson was simply at the time when I arrived here in Kenya. I think within the first, let's say good year, almost a year, I would say around a year, I was spreading my focus too thin into various different businesses. So the first thing that I did, I think at the time I had around like four different businesses I was trying to really invest my time in and put it up. And the issue I saw is that I was waking up very early. I think I was waking up at 5 in the morning, started working also very early. And then I was just working the entire day until very late at night. The what is not the problem in this situation. It was just that I was spreading my focus so thin that I didn't have enough time to really commit to this one thing and pull this one thing up. So I was giving my best, really spending the time I had, like in all these different businesses, until I then met one business owner was like much older than me, more successful, and he told me his own personal story. And his story went something along the lines that he used to win a pitching competition. I think by today he's like one of the biggest moringa exporters, or even the biggest moringa exporter here in from Kenya actually. And what he told me is that when he started out with this product, so he was producing moringa oil and was doing very many various different products out of it. But at that time when he started, he went to a pitching competition, won this pitching competition here in Kenya, then went, I think, to got invited to the Netherlands or something, was then also able to win this pitching competition again, got a big grant, and then from there on, he just got invited to all these different events to speak on stages, TVs, local news all over the world. He was just flying around, and after a while, like explaining all of this and like how good it actually felt, he told me it feels so good to be on all these stages at that point in time. But then later on, what he realized is what he told me. He said, at some point, I forgot what actually got me here to this point, and I was just focusing on the wrong things instead of actually trying to build this business more up than I was supposed to. So he just spread his attention so thin instead of working what actually matters, instead of working on the actual business. He was just spending his time on like being on stages, getting invited, like spending nights in nice hotels and stuff like this. So he was just losing complete track of actually what made him get to this point. So then he told me what really matters is this one thing that you do, focus on this one thing, leave everything else on the side, and just purely focus on what matters at that point in time. And this, after I met him, like I just met him in a random cafe somewhere here in Nairobi, where I was just where I used to work from. And after I heard the story, it didn't immediately click for me, but like after a while, I realized, I looked at my situation, I was like, hey, wait a second, I'm working so much, even while enjoying it, I didn't make enough progress that it made sense for me to keep all of these like businesses or trying to pull all of them up. And once I understood this, then I was more able and clearer on my decision, and I could cut out the first one, the second one, and the third one to eventually just stick with one thing, where I then eventually also saw the biggest growth because I was just doing one thing. I knew I could focus this time that I had on this one business. I could learn more about this one business. I could just acquire customers for this one business. So I just had my pure focus on this one thing. And that's also one of the things I see here happening oftentimes here when I meet other entrepreneurs here in Kenya or like wherever. I just came back from 2 months in Zanzibar, I think 2 weeks ago or something. And they're the same thing. I see people doing or trying to do 2, 3, 4 different things. it keeps them busy, but it will not bring them to the next level of the business. Therefore, I really want to emphasize here is like really put all your focus on this one thing. If the Airbnb business is what you want to do, really spend all the time you have on this one business and try to improve, try to work on it, try to really just immerse yourself in this one business model and try to learn as much as possible about it, because otherwise it will be very, very hard to succeed. And it's like just, yeah, you will spend a lot of time on doing things, you will keep yourself busy, but you will not succeed, and you won't be able to really make this a viable and sustainable business. And you will always have to jump to the next thing, or always trying to do 2 or 3 different things on the side to make a living or to make some money here and there. So therefore, this was one of the most important lessons. I said, just it helps now in this Airbnb context, but it helped me also in general just to be focused, laser focused in terms of everything you do in terms of business. The second thing I would say that really will bring your Airbnb business also to the next level. Also, again, in terms of mindset, this is really just for mindset, this video, because I think it's everything starts in the mind. And once you configured your mind correctly, you're actually able to do so much more than you think you're capable of. And the second thing I want to mention here is just take the action. We just met up with a community member here in Nairobi, and it was so lovely to talk to him and like to see how he came. He's dedicated. I think he's a member for a month or something or so, like a month and a half now. And to see him here right after a month and a half taking action, told me he's ready to start, ready to invest his time, ready to really plan out his Airbnb business here, but also with the deeper purpose of supporting his family later on, and supporting, just not building this business for himself and his family to really like give back to them as well. So I think if you have that kind of purpose, and the only thing that matters at this point is not that you need more information, that you actually need to take the action. Because if you don't take the action, you will never make any progress. Because also another lesson I learned when I was making my own research here before moving to Kenya, like almost 3 years ago now. I think we spent 11 months researching, putting things in progress, like actually starting on paperwork and documentation, whatever we needed. But this 11-month compared to my first month here in Kenya was not even comparable in terms of the input I got in terms of the lessons I've learned. Because after spending here a month, 2 months, 3 months, I learned so many new things I could never possibly learn while being in my research phase. So the most important thing for me always is like, if you have this focus, this one thing is what you want to do, then also try to take as much action as possible. And for me also, maybe I'm also more like a, not reckless, not to say I'm reckless. I also plan and strategize a lot. I also come from business consulting and marketing consulting, whatever, like everything that has to do with really strategizing and making the right moves to achieve the right outcomes. But still, most importantly is always the action you take action, and then figure out things along the way. You make a mistake, okay, you figure it out, you take the next step. Okay, what can I do next? Like with all things I did so far in my journey, in my business journey, and like also while consulting these businesses, you can plan for a month, you can plan for 6 months, you can plan for a year, but nothing is as impactful as just taking the first step. And taking the first step is the most difficult one. And once you start to run, to walk slowly, you can understand how you can walk faster, you can understand how to start running and to make actually the right steps into the right direction, because you learn from all your mistakes that you made along the way. Maybe some of them will hurt, some will hurt more, some will hurt less, but eventually this is all what is necessary for you to actually get on the right track, if that makes sense. So therefore, the first lesson here really for me is having the right focus. If you have this focus, second step is really take action. The first step is most important, and then afterwards just do things. If you have this goal, walk in the right direction and don't let anything distract you. When you have the focus and take the action, you, I would say, halfway there, because there's nothing that can stop you if you really are dedicated to this one goal. And lastly, the third point I have here with me is, they're all similar, or like they're built on top of each other. But the third thing is enough volume. For example, if I look at a lot of Airbnb hosts, a lot of Airbnb hosts, they, for example, or like let's say short-term rental hosts, Airbnb is just a tool we use to get traffic and get eyeballs and get potential customers to find us. But let's say a lot of short-term rental hosts, the mistake they make is that they, let's say, rely on one platform. They rely on Airbnb. But what about other platforms like booking.com, where maybe different kind of people are booking? What about like trip.com that maybe targets a different kind of market? What about VRBO, that's also again a different kind of market? And there are like endless of them. So for me, volume in this context means that most people, they just think my property is set up once, it's done, it's online, and so now it's my time to wait for bookings to come in. But this is like in every other business not the case, because it might work, it might also not work. But I would say in most of the cases you will never maximize your potential, because there's like, for example, there are like 10 platforms you could list on right now that could bring you more customers. There's another 100 different strategies you could use in terms of how can I attract clients. Like we also consulted another short-term rental host, Airbnb host, that has like a farm resort style, and he generates most of his bookings, or all of his bookings he gets through word of mouth. So this means he was very heavily investing into traditional media. He got invited a lot of creators, gave away free stays, so he got a lot of attention by different sources than or from any of these short-term rental platforms. So he didn't use Airbnb. He has a booking account, but it's not using it much. No VRBO, nothing. He doesn't know the strategies on all these platforms, but he still manages to get a lot of bookings. So this means if you are an Airbnb host or short-term rental host, there's so many different things you could do to improve the outcome and the amount of bookings you get. So increase your occupancy rate, to increase the amount of revenue you make with the same property during different seasons, by just looking and first of focusing on this business, take action in this business. And if you have a new idea to implement, just do it, and do this a lot. Test different things out, because there's so much you can test. It said there's one way to get bookings is short-term rental platforms. Another way to get bookings is through content. Another way of getting bookings is through referrals then later on. Like maybe the past guests that have stayed with you, you could also give them referral codes, whatever, if their family stays there. You can get very creative with all these things, but you have to do them a lot, and you have to do them every day by simply showing up, focusing on this, taking action, and just hammering on this one business as much as you can, because then I believe it's almost not possible for you to fail. If you really do so much volume, it's unreasonable to fail for you. Like there's so many strategies. So I want to keep this video live stream a little bit like low-key, like shorter. So I hope these 3 lessons, they helped you already to really get an understanding where I am, because I said for me the most important thing with all the things in business I did was it starts with the mind, and the mind needs to be clear on what to do, on why to do it, and then you figure out everything else along this way. Like take the action, focus on this thing, and do so much of it that there's no chance for you to fail. Like one of my recently how do you say, like favorite quotes is that you will not fail unless you quit. So there's no way for you that you can actually fail in this kind of business, or in any kind of business or any other situation, unless you actually give up and quit, because otherwise you will find more and more ways to make it work, but you have to try a lot for it, and just don't give up and spend your focus and attention only on this one thing. So therefore, I hope this video helped you a bit, and that you got clearer on like things you need to be mentally working on, or like mentally have in your mind as well, that you can actually succeed with this kind of business model. And if this is something you really enjoy, let me know down below in the comments, and I would like to share more of these things, more of the business lessons I've learned, and also in the context of Airbnb, because we now, as said, have already like for around 40 members in our community. I learn lessons from what we do. I learn lessons from all these other people as well, while consulting them, while helping them, while building this beautiful community. So therefore, if this is really interesting for you and you want more lessons, just let me know down below in the comments, and I will gladly be here to help you and support you with that. So I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next stream.